Hey, good morning. And today's look at me marketing. That's right. We're talking this week about me marketing, and we'll explain that to you in more detail in a second. We're going to talk about how some people actually abuse the use of their business cards. I'm going to guess if you've been to any networking event or if you've been to any place where people are giving out business cards, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We're going to talk about why that abuse can be so problematic and ways to prevent it on today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, Tom.
Good morning. How are you today, Bob?
I'm okay. I think I got thrown there for a second. I'm like, did I say the wrong name of the program? I had to really play it back in my head because there was a pause there.
No, you said the right name. I think you're still working through we need to get the phrase in your head, this episode of today's.
Yes, I can't seem to get that right.
Because you want to say today on today's episode of today's.
Yes, this episode of today's Antidote. There's a helpful suggestion. It's not the first time Tom said it to me. It's just I've seemed to have a block. So I'll work on it for tomorrow.
That's okay. It works. It works.
So
good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm doing very well. Thank you, Bob. Good. And I hope everyone out there is doing well also. We are getting ready, as Bob mentioned, to have another discussion, to continue our discussion around me marketing. We talked a little bit about that throughout the week, about how people talk. We also talked yesterday a lot about the questions that they ask and really wasting the questions. Because in reality, when you're marketing, you only have so much time in front of people. And they are only going to pay attention for so long. And so finding the ways to connect and engage and get the information that you're trying to get, make the connections you're trying to make, you have to be effective at it. So we're going to talk about that more in a little bit. And as we go through that conversation, if you have some comments that you would like to share and you happen to be watching us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or
LinkedIn Live.
Bob is out of the bunker and back in his office, and so he can be a little more expressive today, which is wonderful. Well, we welcome your comments there. Please feel free to share them because we know that it not only enhances our show. Bob Cameron just disappeared, so I'll just keep talking. It enhances our show, and it could help someone else as we go through this conversation. And then at the end of our episode today, Bob and I, now that he's back, at some point, will share our antidote, our one thing that we think might be able to help you as you try to find your next steps along your own unique pathway to success. And if you happen to be listening to the podcast, you've missed Bob's camera go off, go to one camera, then to another, and then back. So you missed that. And apparently you unfortunately
doesn't like LinkedIn Live.
Maybe not. Maybe they was telling you.
The gremlins came out.
Yes. And since you are unable to comment when you are listening to a podcast outside of to yourself or maybe yelling at the gym while you're there, we would encourage you to join our Ring of Renegades Facebook group where you can share your thoughts and ideas there. And we would also encourage you to share this podcast if you find value in it with others who you think might benefit from it as well. We would also love it if you would rate the show. That helps get the information out to more people. Bob, how should they rate the show, or could they rate the show?
I feel like we're 5 stars. We're at the top. This is an amazing broadcast. I think we've already demonstrated it today in so many ways.
Fair enough. So we would encourage you to rate our show. That helps more people see it in their podcast feeds. So with that, we will move forward into what we start every day with, our celebrations. Bob, what are you celebrating today?
I'm going to ask for a slight switch today, Tom. I think there's a method to my madness. Can you go first today?
I certainly can if you would like. Happy
I
to
would
do
love
that.
you to.
All right. So I'm celebrating that I've been doing this program for the last 3 years with an organization through Maryland nonprofits, where I'm helping organizations put together a fundraising, better understand how to fundraise. And
this is your coaching and training.
Yes, I was getting to
okay.
that. Yes.
Just
coaching and training with some nonprofit organizations in
what gets confusing because we have lacrosse and we have all these, I'm trying to make sure we have the pieces of the puzzle together.
I'm a complex person, so I was going to lay that out for people.
Okay.
So, and what I love about the start of it, I've done it for 3 years. If you are listening to the podcast, Bob has his hand over his mouth, which is likely it's going to take more than that to keep him from continuing to share his thoughts and ideas. Thank heavens. Now he has 2 hands. Anyhow, this cohort, this group of nonprofits, I just enjoy being in with them. And they're in an area that doesn't have a lot of resources. There aren't a lot of foundations there, not a lot of big corporations in this county. And so they have some challenges in front of them. And this cohort of nonprofits is a lot of new or developing nonprofits. And so they're not as far along the pathway as others may have been. And so I'm looking forward to kind of going back to the basics with them and helping them get started as they continue along their journey. So that's my celebration. I love doing those things. And you, Bob, what now are you celebrating?
So I was up early today to leave the bunker. And as the sun was coming up, I went out to my vehicle and all of a sudden I heard the sound of a whole bunch of birds. And I looked up in the sky and there were thousands, tens of thousands, probably close to 100, 200,000 birds flying north, going right over. I took some video. I took some video of it from my car. I stood there looking up for almost 4 minutes. And the birds just kept going. I mean, thousands and thousands of birds heading north. So I'm celebrating the fact that I got to see something really powerful in nature that happens every year. This is migration back north because it's supposedly getting warmer. And then the thing I think we should celebrate as renegades is that we have new seasons, that we have the opportunity to try things differently each and every day, each and every hour. And so these birds fly south in the fall, come back in the spring, figure out their path, do their thing. And we as business leaders, as owners, as entrepreneurs, as managers, we also have that opportunity every day to fly in a new direction, to fly in the same direction, but to do it a different way. And the other thing that's really interesting is a couple of days ago, I saw Canada geese flying north, and Canada geese get in that V shape.
Yes.
That's like inbred in them, and it makes them like 60 or 70% more efficient. And I think that's really cool as well, that, when we fly with other people, hint, Ring of Renegades Facebook group, we're more efficient. How's that for pulling it all together?
I see what you did there.
Who said this program's for the birds?
It was going so well until the dad joke showed up. And anyhow, I like that though. I like that. There are seasons. It's one of my favorite passages from the Bible. Not that we talk about that very often, but that there's a season for everything. And I think that's it's a great reminder for everyone. And you get a chance to determine when your seasons are based on what you do, especially if you're a renegade, and don't let others determine what your season should be. So now that we've had that conversation, let's dive back into, we go from something so unique and thought-provoking to me marketing, which is really, as we've shared earlier and throughout the week, it's all about you, the person who is telling the story, your business, your organization, your message. How do you gain things rather than how do you support and provide value to others? So today, as a part of that, we are going to talk about one of Bob's all-time favorite marketing, networking. I don't even know the correct
Frustrations.
Frustrations. That's a very good word for it. So, Bob, why don't you dive in? Tell us a little bit about card slamming.
So first, I'd like to do another edition of the Renegade Success Network players, if I may. And I'd like to have the lead role if I could. And I need you, Tom, to just do your job. Tom is going to play the role of Tom, someone at a networking event. And I'm going to be the person that flies in the door, and you'll see what happens. I have a business, and I'm going to talk to Tom about my business. So get ready, Tom, because it's going to go pretty quick.
I'm getting ready because here's what I also know. I have a feeling that was probably the last time. Yesterday was probably the last time I'll be the lead in this players, which is good. I like playing a supporting role. No. All right, I'm ready.
So the Renegade Success Network players with their production of Card Slamming. Hey, Tom, how are you? Here's my card. I don't have time to talk to you. Let me go find someone else. I'm really busy, but take my card. Really, take my card. I know you need what I have. It'd be really helpful. And there you have it.
Wow. I'm not even really sure I didn't get any lines, which is actually probably appropriate.
But therein lies the problem with card slamming, right? You got no lines. You had no role. That's the perfect situation. And we see this happen a lot. And I think some people are so excited to get out and tell everyone about what they're doing that they just hand them the card, whether the card matters or not. And I've gotten to a place where I'm going to an event today where there'll probably be 500-600 people that I could meet if I slam cards for 4 hours. That's not what I want to do. I would much prefer to go in there and meet 5-6 people and maybe have real discussions with 2 or 3. I've actually more and more gone to networking events where I only take 3 business cards in. And I give them out like they are valuable commodities. Like, you don't get my business card unless you are really important to me. I don't give this to just everyone because I find that forces me to choose who the card goes to and whether we're actually making a connection. Because if I'm slamming cards in your face, you know and I know it's either going to dry cleaners, the trash can, or the washer and dryer. And I've got the lint in my washer and dryer to prove from the last networking event that I went to that I put 3 cards in my back pocket, never took them out. Now they look like a blob of nothing.
You know where else they end up? In your desk drawer.
Console of your car?
I could probably open this drawer right here. Maybe not this one. Maybe they're in another one. I think I actually threw a bunch out. I had a whole bunch collected that I
threw away 3,800 business cards about a year ago. That was my collection over the last 10 years. And I didn't even look at them like, oh, who am I missing? Because if you matter to me, you're in my phone.
Yeah. It's interesting. There's, it's a fascinating thing, the whole use of business cards. And on one hand, I appreciate it. So you want to easily, at one point, one way to give people your contact information when we didn't have cell phones and there wasn't the internet, you had a card. And then she said, hey, let me leave your card so that you don't have to write it down somewhere, whatever, you've got it. And people had Rolodexes of cards. And I think that because that was how they were easily able to access. Oh, I need to call Bob. I don't remember his number. There's Bob. I'll dial him up. And I think now with cell phones and databases and whatever, cards have taken on a very different role. And it was always fascinating to me when, my favorite line used to be, you're at a networking event and you're having a conversation with someone, and someone else would just walk in and interrupt and be like, I have to leave, but I wanted to make sure you got my card.
That's the best.
And you kind of want to go, wait, who are you? And maybe it was one of those, typically it was one of those events that was a little bit smaller where everyone got to introduce themselves and then give their elevator pitch. And you're in 30 people or so in a room, and it's like, oh yeah, I just wanted to make sure you got my card. I'm like, well, I didn't even get a chance to ask why. Like, I don't even remember what you said or what you did. Yet I guess I have your card. And it's funny, I think sometimes we think that because I have a card of yours, that I remember exactly what you do and why you do it. And that when I have that need, I'm going to think of you. When if I see your card, I'm going to think of, oh yeah, this was the person who just gave it to me. And I don't even remember having a conversation with them. Because typically what I used to do is I would write a little note. I'd walk out of the event and I'd write a little note, a couple notes about the person that I met, that I exchanged cards with, or that I had cards with. And if they didn't have a note on it, I was like, yeah, this was somebody who was just walking around handing it out, making sure everybody got it. And I just think that's just held no value to me whatsoever. And it's almost like I can remember a time at networking groups, whatever, where people would have portfolios. I even had one at one point of like all the cards that I had. And I think at one point it was valuable because I usually only put you in that if I had had a conversation with you and I felt like I could recommend you to someone else. And yet I know there are other people who had huge binders of business cards who would just
go in and pick any of them.
Well, they'd go in and look and say, financial planner. Okay, here's one. Oh, there's another one. Let me grab those two. And you were looking for a financial planner. Here's two. With no like recommendation or whatever. And I think that's the challenge, that the business card only provides so much information. And I think not gone, but closely gone are the days when you'd put your business card up in a grocery store or your local gas station. Someone would walk by and look at it. We have a grocery store here in town, up in Hereford, where people still put up flyers and posters.
Nice to have a grocery store near you. That's good, Tom. Wait, we think you're in the middle, like the Yucatan.
Well, it's only the only reason I bring it up is because they have one of those boards that as you're walking out, you could put your business card up there. And do some people stop and look at that? Sure. And I'm curious how many times they ever, the ones that are always taken are, do you need a babysitter? And even those aren't taken very much anymore because people aren't going to just leave their kids with some random person whose name happened to be up on a bulletin board. And so, the world of it has changed. And I think there's a real question of what's the value of a business card anymore.
Tom, I was thinking that our relationship may have come full circle today. Because as you were talking about this, I remember the first time we met. It was a networking event in a facility, I think, that we were both in. And there was someone who came in late and just was slamming business cards at people. And I think you and I were standing near each other like, did you just see that? And that was the start of it. Like, I can't even imagine that happening. Would you do that? No, I wouldn't do that. What? And I think that's what started us into discussion that led to all the things that followed. And you're right. It is one of my huge business frustrations. I talked to someone a couple weeks ago and she said, I gave out 8,000 business cards last year. I was like, wow, I might have given out 70. And I would bet of those 70, probably 35, 40 of those people, I could text them right now and they'd be like, yeah, Bob, what do you need?
Right.
She's like, oh, no, I don't. That's not how I market. I just want them to have my card to call me when they need me. I was like, okay. And it does work for some people. And I'm not saying you can't do it that way. That's a choice you make. But I think you both believe in the value of developing that relationship. And I encourage everyone to try my trick. Go to an event and only hand out 3 business cards and really be careful about who those 3 people are. You're not going to give it to the first person you meet. You're going to give it to the person that you actually have a discussion with. And that discussion will cause things to move forward. The other thing I've tried to do, Thomas, I don't give someone a business card unless they ask for it. I don't slam it in front of you.
Which is why I usually bring a few more.
If I ask for your card or your number, that means I'm interested. That means I see value. So it's a good, it's like dating. If you were dating, if you go out and you meet someone, you want them to ask for your phone number, ideally.
I thought you just handed them their phone and they handed you their phone and you typed in your phone number. Isn't that the way it goes now?
That is the way it goes now. More and more. Yes.
Anyhow, but I think it's
Tells
true.
you how
Like,
much dating I do
I,
and how successful I am.
I just watch it on movies. That's all. That's the reason I know is that people are like, oh, hand me your phone. I'll give you my number. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's
Which I
part
guess
of
could
it.
happen in business as well, right?
It
I mean,
could.
hey, hand me your phone. And I've seen that. I'm trying to think of the last networking event I went to that was really successful. Last networking event I was at, the person asked me to send, they said, here, I'll give you my number and then text me and just say it's Bob. And that person called me the next day about something not related to business, but it was something that they had mentioned. I'm like, I have some thoughts on that.
And I think the interesting thing is, like, if you just have a Rolodex of business cards and somebody says, or you're like, geez, you know what? Maybe I want to look at a new financial planner. Are you going to the Rolodex or are you pulling out all the business cards and let me see who I met? Or are you going to LinkedIn to find somebody you're connected to? Are you asking a friend, hey, you know what? I'm thinking of changing my financial planner. Do you have someone that you would recommend? And I think that so often the times when we'd be like, I don't know what to do. Let me go find a business card of someone who's a plumber or whatever. Not that they've passed. I think they're just it's not as valuable as it used to be. And even then, I would argue that unless you're absolutely stuck and don't know who else to go with, are you just going to pick up and call some random person who handed you their business card and you know nothing about them? Or are you going to pass them on to somebody else? I'd almost rather tell someone, you know what, I don't really have a good connection for that, but let me ask around with my connections who might have, than say, oh, well, Jane Doe handed me their business card sitting on my desk here for some reason. I don't know why.
I met her somewhere along the way.
Yeah. Why don't you give them a call and see what they think? And I think that's why I really start to wonder about the value of business cards anymore. How many people you send them an email and their information is on it. You go to LinkedIn and you can likely find them and direct message them, or Facebook, or wherever the case might be. And so I think that the value of those connections is different.
I would add another. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say I'd add another element to that, which is over the last 2 years, because there haven't been a lot of in-person events, my business card collection is really small right now. And the number of business cards I have from the last time I bought 1,000 is really high, because Zoom doesn't allow you to give a business card to the person afterwards. So we found ways to do it other ways, the chat in Zoom and go, hey, I'd love to learn more about what you do. Can we schedule a time?
So let me ask you a question.
Here's my number, right? What's that?
So you've been on a lot of Zoom networking events over the last 2 years, likely, right? How many times, because everybody says, well, put your contact information in the chat. How many times have you gone to that chat and followed up with someone who you didn't talk to, you didn't have you just randomly reached out to?
I would say I've done it probably 2-3 dozen times, but only in situations where everyone got to share who they were up front, and the person talked about something that I was interested in. Like the last one I can remember is someone does franchising of businesses, and I didn't know much about that. So I saw his information go through, I grabbed it, and I immediately sent him a text message and said, I'd really like to learn more about what you do, because I keep hearing the word franchising and I'm not really sure how that fits. So that was one of those things where he said in his pitch, he's like, I'll answer any questions you have about franchising. I'm like, ding, ding, ding. Okay, this is the guy for me. But if you're just at an event and you don't meet anyone and they're just putting their contact information, it's just a list. It's like the business cards from the networking event. You throw them in the trash can, you throw them in your drawer, and you never look at them again.
So it'll be interesting. We both have a networking event tomorrow.
We do.
How many cards are you bringing?
Well, I have a unique situation by which I don't really think my role is to be my business tomorrow because I have other things I have to do. So I might bring a handful, but I don't expect it's not a networking event to me, really, in all honesty.
Okay. Okay.
Uh,
It'll be interesting to see how many people are handing out business cards. The funny thing to me is always when they're like, hey, put your information on the table. And, people will stop and pick it up. The number of times that I've had meetings where I had to walk around and collect all of the information that was left.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that never get taken. And I think, man, somebody spent good money to print those up. And unfortunately, nobody chose to take them. Hopefully, they at least recollect them and use them again. Sometimes I feel like they just leave them like, oh, you left all your materials. Oh, that's okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So tell me, what's your one thing today?
You jumping into me first. Yeah, I think my one thing is, to me, card slamming is kind of like a billboard. It's there. Could it work? Yes. Could it have value? Sure. Do I think it has a lot? Not necessarily, unless you've learned a whole lot more about the person and what they do and who they are than you probably have with a billboard. I can't think about all the times I see billboards with or TV commercials. You see a billboard for some legal person, some lawyers who do something. And, and I guess if you were broken down on the side of the road, or you're in an accident on the side of the road, and there's a defense attorney, maybe you pick up the phone at that moment and dial them up. I think a lot of it is chalked up to the thought that the more you're out there, the more people will be aware of you and consider reaching out to you. And I think that's a great message if you are an advertising agency. I think figuring out what the return on investment that is really hard. Unless somebody walks in and says, yeah, I saw your billboard. I see it all the time. And I was like, you know what? Let me give him a call and see what's going on. So it might work. Might not be the most effective way to get your message across to people.
I think my one thing would be that as we think through me marketing and card slamming, it's really, what's your intent? Is your intent to make connections, in which case slamming cards in front of people isn't doing much, or is it just to get your name out there? And if it's to get your name out there, I would actually argue you're better off to wear a orange clown suit and blow up balloons, because I'll come up to you. If you show up at a networking event with an orange clown suit and you're blowing up balloons, I'm going to be in front of you the whole time talking to you. You're going to be the coolest person in the world. Just like, I think, remember a couple of years ago, it was probably 5 years ago, that people were dressing up as bananas.
Yes.
I can still think of a person you and I both know that dressed up as a banana, and it was a real surprise to us. So here it is 5 years later. And as I think of that, I'm thinking of him in the banana outfit. And I'm also thinking, great guy. I should follow up with. I haven't talked to him in a long time. I need to do that. So that's a lot different. If he had just slammed a card in front of me and said, hi, I'm Rick, he'd be gone from my memory. Now I can see Rick in the banana suit because it was so out of context, but it also showed the kind of playfulness that the guy has, which to me was very appealing from a business perspective. Like, this guy's not straight-laced in the box. He might actually have some creative solutions.
Sure. Yeah, I think you want to find ways to stand out. That's a creative solution. I know someone who used to call themselves the Hat Lady. She wore a hat to every single networking event, and I can see her face right now. And that's more memorable. Well, it's differently memorable than, I also know some people who would kind of run around, and I'm actually not sure that I know one, just because I saw that person a lot. and it became kind of a running thing. All the other card slammers, I can't remember. I have no idea. And I don't have any cards anymore. Threw them all out. Doesn't have value to me, so it's not memorable whatsoever. And I often think that sometimes it's interesting. We didn't really talk about, well, I'll save that for tomorrow. I have another.
Okay.
All right, everyone. If you have one thing you'd like to share, please feel free to share it in the comments, or you can go to it later. If you can't do it now, go later to whatever social media platform you're watching this on, and it'll be there, so you can always put it in. Or you can join us in the Ring of Renegades Facebook group and share your thoughts and ideas in there, where we know there are other people, other renegades who are trying to find their next step along their own unique pathway to success. And there are opportunities for you to connect and engage with people in there who might provide exactly what it is that you are looking for, or you may have exactly what it is they are looking for, and yet you haven't taken the time to connect and engage with them. So we encourage you to do that. And you can also find all the information you ever want to get about Renegades by downloading our app. We haven't talked about that this week, but our Renegade Success Network app. Dun, 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 dun. I wondered if you would remember that. You can download.
I've got to write notes on the side.
Yes, you need a cheat sheet. You can download it from Google Play, or if you have an Apple iPhone, you can go to the App Store and download Renegade Success Network. And there you can access all of the things that we do in the palm of your hand. So with that, we hope that we will see you in the Renegade Success Network community.
So I can get right there in the palm of my hand?
If you have your phone in your hand.
I have to put my phone in it. Okay.
Yes. Correct.
Gotcha.
Or we look forward to seeing you inside our Ring of Renegades Facebook group. If not, we'll see you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, for our next edition of today's Antidote. Have a great day, everyone.
Hey, embrace the renegading you. You are worth it. And figure out what season you're in and whether a new season's ready to start for you. It can be exciting.
Like birds flying overhead?
Like birds flying overhead, sure. Yeah.
That would be a good post. That'd be like an interesting Instagram post. Put the birds flying overhead and then say, what season are you in? The birds seem to think it's spring. What about you?
I like that. I will.
How about that from a non-marketing guy?
I like
marketing
that.
Guy.
I will do that. Cool.
All right, everyone. Have a great day. We will see you soon. Thanks for listening to today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.